might Paul say that being a sacrifice, which means being dead, how can he say that that is a logical thing to do? If you look at the early church and how they were persecuted, and you remember the passage in Hebrews chapter 11, verses 36 and 37, where Paul, or the writer of Hebrews, gives us this description of all the apostles who were killed for the faith. They were beheaded, they were stoned, they were crucified, they were sawn in half, they were boiled in oil. How are these things that these apostles did logical? I mean, Paul was beheaded himself, and he's saying that to be a sacrifice is logical. That's not the first thing I think of when I think of offering myself as a sacrifice. That's the smart thing to do. But Paul says it is. Well, why is it logical? I believe you have the two of those reasons why it's logical on your note sheet. And the first is that our great sacrifice, Jesus Christ, died for us so that we might live for Him. This is where it comes back to the truths of God's Word being taken and applied to practicalness. It is Christ's death for us that motivates us to live for Him. And the second reason is that our great sacrifice, Jesus Christ, lives so that we might no longer live for ourselves. So basically, what it's saying is that we, as Christians, are not to live for ourselves. We're not to live for our own fleshly desires. We're to live to honor God because of Christ's sacrifice for us. So does that mean that in order to be a good Christian, in order to please God, that we have to go out and be martyred for Him, that we have to be killed for Him? Well, no, that's not what Paul is saying here. So if we are to be a sacrifice in order to please God, how then can we live as well? Because it commands us to be a living sacrifice. If you remember the passage that Pastor Jeff read for us in Galatians chapter 2, I'm going to read in verse 19 and 20. It says this: For through the law I died to the law, that I might live to God. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but it is Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave Himself for me. It is because of Jesus Christ, it is because of what He has done for us, that we can live for Him.